Hello everyone and welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about 5 of the most common grip mistakes that you see the club players doing at the club and how we should correct them. Now, one of the main mistakes that you will often see the beginner snooker player do when they're learning the grip is they'll grab the cue, but then they will tilt their wrist either to the left or to the right. Now, that's something that Ray Reardon used to do when he used to play the game, and he played to a very good standard. But you're talking about the modern game of snooker, and in today's snooker, the way that the players play these days, cueing like this, you almost never see it on the TV. And it's not ideal because it makes cueing in a straight line more difficult. If your wrist is pointing to the left, you're going to be more likely to push the cue to the left. If it's more to the right, you're going to be more likely to push the cue offline to the right. So what you ideally want to be doing is cueing with the wrist in a straight line, which is also in line with the arm, the forearm of the grip hand, and it's also in line with the elbow and the cue, and that's just going to help you cue in a straight line consistently. So I'm going to try and play a shot with my wrist bent to the left first of all and see what that feels like. So we've got a red here that's set up, wrist bent to the extreme left. This feels very uncomfortable. We're going to try and see if we can pot the red. Now, we've managed to pot the red with a wrist that's bent to the left, which really surprises me because that is really uncomfortable. I'm now going to try and play a shot with my wrist bent to the right and see what we get there. So, bend the wrist to the right. And this feels very unnatural. I've somehow managed to pot that, which surprises me because I'm not used to playing with my wrist bent to the left or the right. But that's not ideally what we should be doing when we're playing the shots with the grip hand. Finally, we'll play a conventional shot. This is the way in which you should play with the grip hand, which is the wrist straight in line with the arm and the elbow and the cue. So, normal cue action here. And it doesn't surprise me to see the red potted in the centre of the pocket. Now, another common mistake that you'll see the beginner snooker player make when they're first learning the grip is that they won't hold the cue tightly enough or firmly enough with the grip hand. And there'll almost be a gap, or there'll be room in between the fingers, the first fingers and the thumb. There'll be a gap where the cue is, which isn't ideal because it's very difficult to keep a hold of the cue during the feathers, and especially during the final strike. There's a risk that the cue might fly forwards. So it's a little bit too loosey-goosey on the cue action. So with the cue action and the grip hand, there shouldn't be space, or there shouldn't be a gap when the grip hand holds the cue. It should be quite flush all the way around so that you've got a proper grip of the cue. You don't want to hold the grip hand too loosely on the cue or too tightly. So that's the correct way to hold the cue. So just to show you in practice, I'm going to try and hold this cue very loosely and we'll see what happens with the shot. So I'm holding this deliberately loosely. I'm going to deliver the cue. Now, the cue did move forwards about an inch, which isn't ideal because it's going to be very difficult to control the cue ball when you strike the cue ball in this way. I'm going to play now with a firmer grip, and this is really the correct way to strike the shot with the grip hand. Another common mistake that you'll see the beginner snooker player make when they're doing the cue action with the grip hand is that they grip the cue far too tightly. So when they move the cue back and forwards on the feathers, the hand isn't opening, closing, because they're gripping the cue so tight. And this makes it very difficult to deliver the cue action on a level plane when you're feathering the ball and striking the ball. And it just doesn't feel free. It feels quite restricted on the cue action. And you're not going to get a free-flowing cue action when you're gripping the cue too tight. And it's going to be very difficult, much more difficult, to play the game of snooker. So it just needs to be relaxed a little bit, not so loose that there's space here, but just relaxed a little bit so that you're not squeezing the cue, and you can move the cue back and forward a bit more naturally and give a bit more of a natural cue action and more of a natural strike on the cue ball. So I'm going to try and grip the cue very tightly and see what happens on the shot. Now, although I've managed to pot the ball, because I was gripping the cue very tightly, this didn't feel comfortable and it felt very restricted. Now, in snooker, ideally you want your cue action to feel comfortable and you want it to be a free-flowing cue action. Otherwise, it's going to affect your ability to play snooker, and it's going to play in your mind as well and possibly distract you off your natural game. I'm now going to play with a slightly looser grip. So it's not going to be too loose or too tight. It's going to be how I would naturally play the game, and we'll see what happens there. So as you can see, we potted both the balls on that occasion, but that felt a lot freer. There was a lot more freedom on the cue action, and therefore it's going to be more of a free-flowing game, which is what you want in the game of snooker. Now, the final two mistakes that you'll see the beginner snooker player make when they're first starting to learn the grip is that they might hold the cue too far backwards with the grip hand. So when the tip is to the white ball, their grip hand is too far back. This makes it difficult to get adequate backswing on the cue action when you're about to strike the white ball. The other common mistake that the beginner snooker player will often make is they'll hold the grip hand too far forwards. Now, this makes it difficult to get adequate follow through on the cue action. So it's ideal to hold the cue on a 90-degree angle when the tip is to the white ball. And this enables you, with the grip hand, to get a proper and full cue action, but you can also, most importantly on the strike, get adequate backswing and follow through when you strike the cue ball. So the grip arm too far back, very difficult to control the cue action. I've missed an easy shot because the grip hand was way too far back, very difficult to control the cue. Put the grip hand too far forwards, the weight at the back of the cue feels heavier, and I feel like the grip hand here is actually holding the cue up rather than delivering the cue action. I've managed to pot the ball, but that is not an ideal or sustainable way to play the game of snooker. What you need to do is at a right angle, you've got control of the cue and you're going to cue more accurately. Thanks for watching the video today. Hopefully that gives you some more insight on the grip. And if you did enjoy this video, please like, comment and subscribe to the channel. And until next time, cheers.